Hi, I'm Laia, I'm a brand designer and strategist, and in today's video you're coming along with me as I built my design studio from scratch in just 30 days. This was one of the most intense but rewarding projects I've ever taken on. I'm so excited to share all of the steps, challenges and lessons that I've learned throughout the way. So whether you're a designer, entrepreneur or just someone looking to start something new, I hope you'll find this video relatable and hopefully a little bit inspiring too. So without further ado, let's dive right in. I actually have a business and marketing degree and I've worked in marketing for some years now. I've done many things. I've been a copywriter, a video editor, a marketing specialist, but it wasn't until I became the head of marketing at a multi-million-dollar corporation that I realized the importance of strategy and branding. And because I've always been a very creative person and I've taken a couple of graphic design courses, I decided to look into brand design and branding, and I truly fell in love with it. And for some weeks, I had been toying with the idea of actually starting my own design studio. But I kept thinking, I'm not ready yet, I'll wait till I have more experience, and all of those things that will probably sound very familiar to you. And one morning, I was talking to my partner, and he made me realize that there was no perfect time. And the longer I waited, the longer I was putting my dreams on hold. And as stupid as that sounds, that was the moment where I actually committed to starting this project, no matter what. So I opened my notebook and I wrote down, build my design studio in 30 days. And I have to say, once you write something on paper, it becomes real. So that's where the fun and the stress started and my social life ended, or at least for a couple of weeks. Once I made the commitment, the next step was building a plan. I'm someone who thrives on planning, but that's a weakness of mine. I get too caught up planning that I never take action. So I promised myself that I would only have one day to plan all of this, and that helped my mindset tremendously. So I grabbed a notebook, I wrote the ultimate to-do list, and then I broke it down into manageable tasks. We're talking branding, business structure, marketing, services, client outreach, legal, like the whole 9 yards. And one thing that I learned very early on is that if you want to avoid feeling overwhelmed, you need to break things down into manageable chunks. So instead of thinking I need to build a brand, I thought, okay, today I need to do strategy. Tomorrow I need to find a name for my studio. The next day I'll need to do etc, etc, etc. Then day 2 rolled around, and this is where I started feeling in my element. Building my own brand was super fun, but also very intimidating. As a perfectionist, I'm my worst enemy, and that's where the indecisiveness started to crawl in. But in the spirit of taking action no matter what, I put my perfectionism aside and I started with research. So first I analyzed the key players in the industry, the type of business they run, if they were an agency or a personal brand, the trends in the market, pricing, visual identities. So once I had a clear idea of what I wanted my business to be like, I moved on to what I wanted my business to feel like. I experimented with many name combinations and variations, but I wanted my brand to feel like me, be approachable and real, so I decided to name it like myself, Laia. Since it's not an international name, it gives me the uniqueness I was looking for, but it's still easy for my clients to remember since it's my name and they're gonna be saying it a lot. Then I built a mood board and I started experimenting with logo designs. I wanted something that was very clean and very simple, but I didn't want it to feel too corporate. So I ended up going with a sans serif font, and then I modified the L to be like handwritten. This way, the L in Laia alludes to creativity, design, art, and the rest of the name conveys organization, structure, strategy, the 2 core parts of my business and my value proposition. Once I had the primary logo, I created a secondary logo and a logo mark to ensure my brand is responsive across different touch points. I also spent a good chunk of time experimenting with color palettes until I landed on one that conveys trust and wisdom, hence the blue, but with a splash of energy and creativity, hence the salmon. And then I decided on a font. Once the basics were finished, I moved on to designing a brand pattern and then some mock-ups to see the brand in action. Now let's talk about the digital side of things. I knew that having a strong online presence was key for 2 main things. First one, it was going to help me get clients, and the second one, it was going to showcase my expertise and design style. Plus, the idea of sharing my experience online really caught my eye. So I started with a website. I first got a domain name and then I built my site using Squarespace. When developing a website, it is crucial to have a plan. So I started with creating a website architecture document in which I listed all of the URLs and the hierarchy I wanted the pages to follow. And don't worry, sorry if this doesn't sound familiar. I plan on doing a video all about website optimization and website building. Then I did some keyword research and keyword mapping for SEO optimization, which will help my inbound lead generation. As you can see, I kept it simple but effective, just showcasing the most important things: my portfolio, the services I offer, about myself, and then how to get in touch with me. I also wanted my website to be useful for other creatives and entrepreneurs, so I included a useful resources page and then a templates page. The next day, I created a lead generation strategy. My plan included inbound lead generation, but I also added direct marketing, so basically cold outreach, because I don't have a social media following yet, and SEO is a long-term game. Once that was done, it was time to build my social media presence. I started by signing up for Instagram, Threads, TikTok, and YouTube. And then I developed a content plan using Notion. This allows me to centralize all of the content creation process in just one place, and it'll make my life much easier. Finally, I created some social media templates to streamline my process and a couple of general posts to give my viewers some context: who I am, what I do, what I offer, etc. And yes, I'm using Figma for it because I find it easier to organize all of my files there. For the next couple of days, I spent a lot of time on Notion, perfecting my content calendar, and then creating a business organization system, or business hub as I call it, which will allow me to keep track of all of my finances, client projects, deliverables, to-dos, digital assets, and more in just one place. And I'll dedicate another video to this if you're interested, because I think it's a very useful tool. This was very time-consuming, and speaking of time-consuming things, I started a huge project on its own: the client deliverable templates. I spent 3 full days doing this because I wanted to make my process more efficient and more professional. And just in case you don't know what a client deliverable is, to me, it's just a presentation or a material you hand to your client once a stage of the project has been completed. In my case, I had 7 deliverables in mind. I first created the presentation and project proposal template, which contains information about myself and my services, as well as the packages I offer and their price adjusted to the client's situation. Additionally, I created the pretty standardized onboarding presentation to facilitate the first stages of the project for my clients. In it, I include information about the process, a personalized time frame, useful information, and frequently asked questions. The next day, I moved on to the brand strategy and creative direction presentation, which contains everything from the brand's story and values to the competitive advantage, target audience, and competitors benchmarking, both in terms of business and visual identity. This presentation also has the creative direction for the brand with the mood board proposals and the brand personality. Once I finished this, I moved on to the visual identity presentation for the brand reveal, which was actually one of my favorite things to design. So in this presentation, I included a summary of the brand and the creative direction that was previously discussed, and the new identity with the logo suite, color palette, typography choices, brand patterns, iconography, etc. On the final day, I decided to develop a brand guidelines presentation, which is an extensive guide on how to use the new brand identity with the logo and color usage, how to pair the fonts, how to make the other elements work together, and some tips. This is crucial to hand to your clients if you want to make sure that the brand you design is used the correct way. Also, inspired by Abby, I also created the brand guidelines sheet, which will serve as an easily accessible summary of the brand guidelines. And then I finished the client deliverable template with the onboarding presentation, which includes a recap of the project, useful resources, and the guide on how to use the final files and formats. As you've probably realized by now, I'm a Notion stan, so I decided to create a client portal to use as my project management system. In it, my clients have a summary table with the agreed timeline, all the presentations and deliverables that they get, their contract and invoices, final files, and useful resources. This will reduce the need for hundreds and hundreds of back and forth emails and centralize all of my projects in just one place with my business hub. To finish with the more admin part of this process, I also created an invoice template and a contract. The contract was by far one of the hardest things I did because I have zero legal experience in the matters, so after a lot of research and thought, I came up with a contract. By the way, you can get some of these documents for free on my website. On day 24, I was sick of admin and client documentation and I wanted to design, so I decided to start a very short passion project. And to make the most of the project, I decided to film some content for social media, both YouTube and Instagram and TikTok, so you guys could see how I created the brand. We're on the last 3 days now, and even though this may seem very dumb for some of you guys, I'm someone who thrives on organization, so having a clean digital workspace is crucial for my mental health. So I started by creating an organization system in Google Drive and my laptop so that I could have easy access to all of the files. I also tidied up my email account with some labels and folders, and I optimized my phone. And what a better day to finish these 30 days than with a client meeting. During this whole process, I got a couple of clients, so on day 30, I kickstart one of the brand identity projects that I had booked. And that actually concludes this process. I wanted to create a more general video so that you could see the whole story, but I actually want to do separate videos on some of the most relevant stages, so feel free to comment down below if you have any suggestions. Looking back, these 30 days were intense, but they were also one of the best and most rewarding decisions I've ever done because I learned so much about myself and how I want to do things moving forward. And even though there were days where I thought I couldn't do this because I had a full-time job and I was doing this project, those were the days where I had to push myself and prove to myself that I could do this. So it really helped me work on my commitment. If I could give anyone advice on their own journey, I would say to just start and take it step by step. You don't have to have everything figured out. Start small, take it day by day, and just embrace the challenges that come along the way. At the end of the day, you'll never be 100% ready to do anything, so just take that first step and you'll be surprised at how much you can accomplish. And if you ever need support, you have a whole community of people just cheering you on. So remember this, there is no perfect moment, take it easy, and embrace the imposter syndrome. And that's it. Thank you so much for coming along this journey with me, and if you're curious to see what happens with my studio, be sure to subscribe. I've got so much more to share. See you in the next video.